Today we are talking about the most ruthless, roughest, toughest, evil human being. The crimes this man has committed are atrocious. Brittany Griner. No wait, Viktor Bout. It is believed that Viktor was born in Tajikistan in 1967 when it was a part of the Soviet Union. The dude didn't even have a birth certificate. His mom was a bookkeeper and his dad was an auto mechanic. And being a mechanic would be a prosperous job in the Soviet Union because those Soviet cars break down as soon as you get them. Then again, most people in the Soviet Union were poor. Viktor had ambitions to become rich from a young age. In an oppressive dictatorship, it's hard to become rich in a legal sense. You can either become a criminal or at least get close to the system, which is ran by criminals. So Viktor joined the Soviet Armed Forces and graduated from the Russian Military Institute of Foreign Languages. He could speak over 5 languages, including Arabic, Persian, French, English, and Portuguese. Viktor became a translator for the Soviet Army, holding the position of lieutenant, notably assisting the MPLA in the Angolan Civil War. Russia was assisting the socialist side in Angola, and the US was funding the nationalist side. Russia and the US couldn't fight each other directly, so they usually pick sides in other countries' conflicts, a simple way to describe the Cold War. Towards the late 80s, when Viktor was entering his 20s, it was realized that communism was failing and Russia was going to dissolve the Soviet Union and transition into a more capitalist society, hoping to reach prosperity and lessen poverty. Viktor had new ambitions to become a businessman. He didn't have to be a part of the communist system anymore and was discharged from the military in 1992. He started an air cargo business, importing items from other countries that weren't yet available in Russia. He'd eventually move his cargo company to the Arab Emirates, where he shipped 200 tons of cargo every day. A pretty successful man operating a legal business, providing air freight services to the French government, the UN, and the US, transporting things like flowers, French soldiers, and African heads of state. Viktor eventually violated the UN arms embargo by supplying guns to Angola, Liberia, Sierra Leone, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and during 1995, the Taliban was on its way to conquering Afghanistan. Viktor had sent a plane full of weapons from Albania to give to Rabbani, the president of Afghanistan. The Taliban had other plans with an Inceptor aircraft which forced the Russians carrying weapons to land in Taliban territory. The Taliban held the Russians captive and would not free them unless the Taliban members in Russia were free. They wanted an exchange. Viktor Bout had no choice but to meet up with the Taliban leaders to negotiate the release of the hostages. Rumor has it that Viktor secured an arms deal with the Taliban and made over $50 million, so he was actually arming both sides of the war. The hostages ended up escaping on their own while Taliban members were distracted. Viktor became the hookup for weapons all across the world, especially Africa. Viktor Bout supplied Charles Taylor weapons for the Liberian Civil War, which resulted in 200,000 casualties. He did so much business in Africa that he had a house in Johannesburg, a pretty big one too. Viktor has also supplied weapons for the Yugoslav wars during the 90s. This dude must have loved civil wars because they gave him opportunities to cash out. And towards the late 90s, he became known as the Merchant of Death. Because of 9/11, the US was pretty suspicious when it came to terrorists having access to weapons. Because it's like, damn, they might use those against us, especially if he's supplying weapons to terrorist groups that don't like the US. This is a charge called conspiracy to kill Americans. Despite this, the US government contracted with 2 of Viktor Bout's company, and he supplied guns to US troops in Iraq. Incredible. Viktor didn't seem to have a political bias. He sold guns to whoever showed him money. His empire was so powerful that even the US government used him, not once, but twice. Viktor denies ever doing business with Al-Qaeda or the Taliban, and of course he would. His network actually sold several surface-to-air missiles to Al-Qaeda, which were used to attack an Israeli-owned hotel in Kenya, killing 13 innocent people. Bout is quoted saying, "I woke up after September 11th and found out I was second only to Osama," as he was the main supplier of weapons to the Second Congo War, sometimes referred to as the African World War, because there were 5.4 million excess deaths and 350,000 violent deaths.
Мы находимся в городе Буня. Здесь, в этих хижинах, живут конголезские солдаты.
Now, it was hard to build a case against Bout because he kept changing his location. He lived in Belgium, Syria, Rwanda, United Arab Emirates. The man had his own airplanes, so there wasn't anyone stopping him at TSA. There was a red notice on Bout for money laundering, and the United Arab Emirates would ban Viktor from doing business and ban him from entering the country. In the early 2000s, he was a wanted man, so he did the most logical thing and set up an airline company in Tajikistan, mainly for money laundering and hiding cash from authorities. Viktor would always be safe from arrest in Russia, and at this point, he had 40 to 60 aircraft and 300 people were working for him. He continued doing what he did best, selling weapons. That includes the Lebanon War of 2006, and he had a strong presence in Libya. It was 2008 where Bout thought he had secured the deal of a lifetime. A man claiming to be a part of the Colombian rebel group FARC, which was a far-left revolutionary terrorist group in Colombia that wanted to overthrow the government. This person asked for 100 surface-to-air missiles, 100 armor-piercing rocket launchers, and several other things that added up to $12 million. Viktor was like, "Hell yeah, I sell weapons all the time. Where do you want me to parachute them?" Bout met up with the supposed Colombian in Thailand, and the whole Colombia deal was a sting operation by the DEA.
Been like for you. Why do the Americans want you so badly?
Go and ask them. Go and ask Bush administration, Obama administration. Go and ask Mrs. Clinton. She could have explained why they did it. I don't know. I have no clue.
They can manufacture jurisdiction like they did, they can manufacture nexuses, they can manufacture all other legal stuff, but they can't manufacture a truth. Truth is there, and regardless of their opinion, the truth is very simple and square. I'm innocent. I don't commit any crime. There is no crime to sit and talk. If you're going to apply the same, standards to me, then you're going to, jail all those arms dealers in America who are selling their arms and ending up killing Americans. They are involved even more than me.
He was charged with terrorism offenses, conspiracy to acquire and use anti-aircraft missiles, conspiracy to provide material support to a designated foreign terrorist organization, and much more. Russia wasn't too crazy about Viktor being arrested, with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov suggesting that he was innocent. Bout was of help to Russia's intelligence agencies and had connection to Russian officials. After being sentenced to 25 years in American prison, Bout defended himself by saying if the same standards were applied to everybody, American gun shop owners who are selling arms that end up killing Americans would also be in prison. His scheduled release was August 2029. And as you guys know, Viktor was released after serving over 10 years in prison in exchange for Brittney Griner. I wonder if she's still going to play for the Russian League or if any American will. Since being released, Bout has shown support for the Russian invasion of Ukraine and has aligned himself with an ultra-nationalist political party. So Viktor Bout, he provided weapons for civil wars, wars in general. He sold weapons to Taliban, Al-Qaeda, terrorist groups. Bout even compared himself to Osama bin Laden, which means he sort of got a kick out of fueling these conflicts. There was a movie based on him, and Viktor enjoyed the publicity. Let me know what your opinion on this is. I'm out.